Hello and welcome to World News Midnight Edition, brought to you by All 24 News. I'm your host, Karim Zachary, and these are your headlines. Australia has reversed a previous controversial decision to recognize the western part of the occupied city of Al-Quds as the Zionist regime's so-called capital. Also coming up, UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned on Monday that the situation in Ethiopia was spiraling out of control as fighting raged in the north of the country. And also in our news, the Sahrawi president, the Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Mr. Brahim Ghali, was officially welcomed in Pretoria by his South African counterpart, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. And in Ukraine, 3 strikes had destroyed energy facility in northern Kiev, causing blasts. Hello again. First in our news, Australia has reversed a previous controversial decision to recognize the western part of the occupied city of Al-Quds as the Zionist regime's so-called capital. During a media briefing on Tuesday, Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the government recommits Australia to international efforts in the responsible pursuit of progress towards a just and enduring solution to the issue of Palestine.
Today, the government has reaffirmed Australia's previous and long-standing position that Jerusalem is a final status issue, and a final status issue that should be resolved as part of any peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian peoples. This reverses the Morrison government's recognition of West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
And as a reaction to this development, the Palestinians on Tuesday hailed Australia's decision to reverse its recognition of West Al-Quds as the Zionist capital, despite fierce criticism by the Zionists. Quote, "We welcome Australia's decision with regards to Al-Quds and its call for a two-state solution in accordance with international legitimacy," the Palestinian Authority's Civil Affairs Minister Hussein al-Sheikh said on Twitter. The Sheikh also hailed Australia's affirmation that the future of sovereignty over Al-Quds depends on the permanent solution based on international legitimacy. Still with Palestine, the Palestinian PM Mohammed Shtaya confirmed that the Palestinian Council of Ministers is ought to apply the Algiers Declaration document into a practical reality. Shtaya, in a speech during the Palestinian government session on Monday, expressed the Palestinian government's readiness to take all measures to serve the end of the division and the achievement of the Palestinian national unity and Palestinian reunification. The Palestinian Prime Minister thanked Algeria for hosting the meeting of the Palestinian factions, the Algerian President, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the Algerian government.
The Council of Ministers is mobilizing to take all necessary steps to translate the document to the Algiers Declaration into a practical reality with all that is related to the government and in the service of ending the division and achieving Palestinian national unity and national reunification. Thanks to brotherly Algeria for its efforts and for hosting us under the leadership of the Arab man who is jealous for Palestine, His Excellency President Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the pillars of his esteemed government.
To the other just cause now, the President of the Republic of the Sahara Arab Republic, the Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Mr. Brahim Ghali, received on Tuesday in Pretoria a warm and official reception from his South African counterpart, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. The official reception ceremony took place at the Presidential Palace in Pretoria, where the President, Brahim Ghali, received a 21-gun salute in show of respect to the Sahrawi Republic, after which the two presidents listened to the national anthem of South Africa and the Sahrawi Arab Republic.
Sahrawi people suffer from occupation activities, especially from neighboring country Morocco, that is still until now breaking international legitimacy and law. Beside the international efforts to solve this issue, the UN didn't fix a file that was supposed to be fulfilled in 1992. Moroccan obstruction and complicity of other countries prolonged the sufferance of Sahrawi people, who were supposed to be free in their own territory since ages. The Sahrawi delegation that is with you, and on behalf of all entire Sahrawi people and the Polisario Front, salute you and thank you for your firm stances in your defense of the right. This effort and this position will continue until the Sahrawi people reach their freedom and independence, and this visit will enable the development of our relations in various fields.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and member of the National Secretariat of the Polisario Front, Mohammed Salam Weld Salek, affirmed that the intransigence and violation of Morocco of the international law in the complete absence of the international community are likely to plunge the region into instability and tensions. Speaking at a press conference held on Sunday at the ministry's headquarters on the latest developments of the Sahrawi issue, Weld Salek reaffirmed that the Sahrawi people's commitment to the recovery of their legitimate rights to self-determination and independence by all means, including the armed struggle.
Le colonialisme, comme dit les Nations Unies dans l'une de ses décisions,
As stated by the UN, colonialism and crime against humanity, as well as apartheid, it has to disappear. It's a matter of time, and the Moroccan occupier will retreat from our country, and they will do it peacefully. I think the former king of Morocco, Hassan II, had well understood that he cannot stop the Sahrawi people and their determination. And secondly, the international legality doesn't recognize sovereignty over our country.
The Security Council held closed consultations over Minorso following the Secretary General's report on the situation in Western Sahara on October the 3rd, 2022. The Council, which held consultations under the chairmanship of Gabon, was briefed by the Secretary General's personal envoy for Western Sahara, Mr. Stéphane de Mistura, who gave a presentation on the results of his second visit to the region. On the same context, Ireland's representation at the United Nations yesterday reiterated its country's support for the right to self-determination of the Sahrawi people in accordance with the Security Council resolutions. To other continental news now, Ethiopian authorities said on Monday they are aiming to get immediate control of airports and other infrastructure in Tigray, a statement of their war intentions that was followed by the capture of a strategic town of Shire in the northern region. On the other hand, the UN Secretary General said the situation is becoming uncontrollable and called for the immediate withdrawal of Eritrean troops.
The situation in Ethiopia is spiraling out of control. Violence and destruction have reached alarming levels. The social fabric is being ripped apart. Hostilities in the Tigray region of Ethiopia must end now, including the immediate withdrawal and disengagement of Eritrean armed forces from Ethiopia.
To France now. At the call of several unions, an intra-professional or interprofessional strike day takes place this Tuesday, October 18th, to demand a rise in wages and defend the right to strike. At the heart of the mobilization, wage demands in refineries and fuel shortages. The standoff between the CGT and the management of Total Energies is spreading. Mobilized for several days, the refineries of France are still disrupted this Tuesday on the basis of wage demands. Their movement inspired a day of general and inter-professional mobilization on October 18th. The watchword, a rise in wages and the defense of the right to strike.
What we are asking for is an increase in salaries, and the parameter is an increase in the minimum wage and the sliding scale of salaries for the government, and the negotiations in companies without delay, without waiting for a strike, and which are up to the demands of the employees.
Et qui sont à la hauteur des revendications des salariés.
To the United States now. Ohio voters have turned into the second debate between the Democratic U.S. Representative Tim Ryan and the author J.D. Vance. Both are hoping to succeed retiring GOP Senator Rob Portman. The two candidates debated on abortion, the economy, and whether former President Donald Trump should honor the subpoena that was issued last week by the House committee that's investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
I think that President Trump should be afforded all of the rights that every other American citizen is afforded. He should respond to the subpoena. He should come clean. He should talk about, we know that there's been a call from the White House to somebody who was participating in the storming of the Capitol. We should know all this, and if he has nothing to hide, he should come clean, and we should figure out what's going on.
Legal advice about whether he should honor the subpoena, I think it would probably be a pretty enlightening piece of testimony if he did honor the subpoena. But look, the January 6th committee has shown from the very beginning that it's not interested in the truth, that it's interested in a political hit job. And it goes back to 4 years ago, the obsession with the idea that Donald Trump somehow had the election stolen by the Russians. There's been a nonstop political effort to not honor the election of 2016. And I think that's just as much of a threat to democracy as the violence on January the 6th. Now, January the 6th, I've condemned the violence repeatedly. And Tim talks about absolutely some brave law enforcement officers who did their job and kept the Capitol safe.
To Latin America now, where intense rain in northern Venezuela caused a landslide that has killed at least 3 people. President Nicolás Maduro said on Monday as he visited another site where over 50 died in similar circumstances last week. Video footage from El Castano, broadcast on Venezuelan television, showed mudslides devastating everything in their path, sweeping away vehicles, trees, and huge boulders. President Maduro referred to the incident in the neighborhood in Maracay.
I've been informed that the damage in El Castano, in Maracay, is severe. I have preliminary information that there are already 3 dead. It was also a landslide that came from mountains.
Time for the latest on the war in Ukraine. Ukraine says 3 strikes have destroyed energy facility in northern Kiev, causing blasts. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, nearly a third of Ukraine's power stations have been destroyed in a week. Many regions of Ukraine, including the capital Kiev, were suffering power outages after a new series of strikes targeting power facilities this week. And in the same file, the Kremlin on Tuesday denied the use of Iranian-made drones by the Russian military. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said in a phone conference that the Kremlin does not have such an information in response on whether Russia uses these drones to attack targets in Ukraine or not.
We do not have such an information about the use of Iranian-made drones. Russian equipment, you know about it, with Russian names is being used.
The energy file now. Sweden and Denmark examined the holes in Nord Stream pipelines, saying a large section of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline wasn't found due to strong explosions that caused the gas leaks. Islam Sid reports.
Following the investigation conducted by Denmark and Sweden, over 4 holes occurred in Nord Stream gas pipelines that link Russia and Western Europe. Danish authorities said on Tuesday that powerful explosions damaged both Nord Stream 1 and 2. According to Swedish newspaper, 50-meter section was missing from one area of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. Despite the ambiguity about who might be behind the detonations, Many Western countries and Russia exchanged accusations over the leaks and called it an act of sabotage. Some believe that the United States is involved in the explosions to control gas market in Europe, and Russia has been barred from taking part of the investigation, the act which the Kremlin called a setup to deliberately put blame on Russia.
This international investigation was set up inherently to put the blame on Russia. It's absurd. This is absurd. And it was reported. Our intelligence service had all the evidence to prove the opposite. Furthermore, just elementary logic is needed to understand that such sabotage damages Russian interests on a large scale.
Following the act of sabotage, the European Commission on Tuesday advocated ramping up steps to secure its essential infrastructure and prioritize energy ranging from the Norwegian energy installations to German power lines. The Commission also called EU members to accelerate work to improve preparedness against any new attacks. Declining flows of gas from Russia, which once supplied 40% of Europe's needs, has left the European Union struggling to unite over gas surging prices that have deepened the cost of living crisis for families and businesses amid fears how to handle the coming winter. But the question that repeats itself, who might be behind the explosions?
Algeria ranked first in the Arab world in terms of new oil and gas discoveries during the first 8 months of the current year, 2022. The report of the Organization of Arab Exporting Countries indicated that Algeria recorded from the beginning of this year until the end of last August 7 new discoveries, including 4 oil discoveries and 3 gas discoveries. Still with energy, Qatar State Energy Company CEO Saad Al-Kabi said on Tuesday that Doha would not transfer or divert any gas shipment already contracted with Asian buyers to Europe for this winter. On the other hand, China told state-owned companies to stop reselling liquefied natural gas to Europe and Asia to ensure their own supply for the winter. To UK now, British ministers arrived on Tuesday for a cabinet meeting with Prime Minister Liz Truss after a series of U-turns which has left her premiership on the brink of survival. Truss watched silently in Parliament as her new Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt tore up the radical economic agenda the Prime Minister had proposed less than a month ago. Truss's decision has so far eased some of the pressure on Britain's elevated borrowing costs, but the scale of the reversal means she is now fighting to survive just 6 weeks after she became Prime Minister. And now for more international news, let's follow this report compiled to us by our own Zahra Farjani.
Hundreds of Palestinian farmers from the village of Salem crowded around the gate on Tuesday morning, waiting to be allowed to access their olive farms. It is harvest season in West Bank, and some 1,500 farmers were barred from accessing their olive trees for more than a year. But currently, they have a period of 3 days to pick olives.
These lands here are not confiscated lands. This is our land registered in our names. But they don't allow us to reach our land and look after it because they are planning to confiscate it in the future. That is their main concern with this land. They've claimed that they installed the gate to save Zionist lives. We can't reach our land at all.
The United Nations says the first cholera outbreak to hit Lebanon in nearly 3 decades is getting worse. 46 new cases of cholera have been recorded in the last 48 hours, bringing the total number of infections to 89. This was stated by the Ministry of Health in a report that says 3 people have died of the disease. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro held a campaign rally Tuesday in São Gonçalo, in the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro, hoping to consolidate his popularity in the state where he won the first round. Bolsonaro shared the stage of the second largest city in the state, with local political figures and Rio de Janeiro's governor, Cláudio Castro, also seeking re-election.
What we want and will do together even more is to have our people independent and free. Brazil even better economically. We don't want the return of corruption and neglect. We want honesty, peace and progress. And this is your having in our government.
Thousands of people gathered in Argentina to celebrate Peronist Loyalty Day. which is marked every year on October 17th to remember a massive protest in 1945 that helped free from prison Labor Minister Juan Domingo Perón. Thousands of people descended on the national's capital, Buenos Aires, close to the presidential palace in Plaza de Mayo Square, with many displaying banners and flags in what was a lively and colorful demonstration.
The fourth night of the International Festival of Symphonic Music witnessed a notable interaction between the Egyptian and the Italian orchestras, as well as the Algerian audiences. Our own Oussama Ayadi was there and came back with this.
On its fourth day, the International Festival of Symphonic Music, for its 12th edition, has witnessed a full agenda. The fourth day of the festival was entertained by a number of the best symphonic musical sheets. Italy and Egypt's best orchestras gave extraordinary masterpieces on stage.
نحن اليوم نعيش السهرة الرابعة على التوالي.
Today we live the fourth night of the festival. 14 countries are Algeria's guests, because music is loving what's good and hating all what's not good. We are so happy that the fourth night was exceptional.
The Cairo Orchestra, which is better known for playing a major role in Cairo's musical life, was conducted by the maestro Ahmed Saidi, who has a long history in symphonic music in Egypt and in the world. The orchestra was finally awarded the Festival Shield.
احنا جينا أول مرة من 3 سنوات كانت مشاركتنا الأولى.
We came here 3 years ago for our first performance, but the festival was interrupted for COVID-19 reasons, and we are so happy to participate in the first edition after COVID. The audience received us very warmly, and we are so happy for this welcoming.
تأثرنا جدا بهذا الاستقبال الحافل.
Filarmonica Arturo Toscanini gave the second performance to the Algiers Opera House. The orchestra, which is amongst the best symphonic musical orchestras in Italy, brought Sicily artistic air to Algiers. Enrico Onofri, the orchestra conductor, and the rest of the members did not hesitate at any moment to deliver the Italian joy through their instruments.
Well, first of all, the organization was really great, actually, and the interaction as well. Of course, very warm audience and a lot of feedback from the people while waiting, while listening, of course. Yeah. I think it's a very important opportunity. Actually, music itself, it's an opportunity to share culture and relationships.
Orchestras from 14 countries coming from different corners of the world are in Algeria for the fourth day to deliver the best of their symphonic art to an Algerian public who seem to be thirsty for a variety of musical genres around the world.
And from music to football now. With FIFA World Cup set to start next month, many major teams are dealing with injuries to some of their key players. The details with Sofiane Kentouri.
The biggest football competition, according to some, is the FIFA World Cup. Nations compete for the largest and most coveted trophy in international football every 4 years. The 2022 edition of the World Cup will kick off on November 20th in Qatar. Unfortunately, some players have sustained injuries that have made it unlikely that they will be able to participate in the competition. The former World Cup winner lost its midfielder N'Golo Kante, who has been ruled out due to an operation on hamstring injury. After leaving the field on stretcher during Sunday's game against Manchester City, Jurgen Klopp announced on Tuesday that Diego Jota would not be attending the World Cup. Such a news made Portugal lose one of the most talented strikers of the team in such a competition.
Really not good news about Diogo. Yes, he will miss the World Cup. Pretty serious injury in the muscle, calf muscle, and now we have to. The recovery starts, or the process starts. Let me say like this, and yeah, so that's it pretty much. So that's the first diagnosis, which was pretty clear, and all the rest will now follow in the next few days.
English player Reece James will miss the World Cup in Qatar too, due to a knee injury, while Argentina is in the top of these nations having many injuries, including Di Maria and Paulo Dybala. Even Lionel Messi could miss the first game in this competition. Alongside these noticeable absentees, other big names will miss out due to no fault of their own. Unfortunately for some players, this is the last World Cup tournament they will participate in due to their age. Many teams' managers are trying to figure out how to replace the missing stars in their squads, which became like a ghost following these big names.
Well, that's all we have for now. For more stories, don't forget to visit our social media platforms as well as our website. Thank you for tuning into our channel, and bye for now.